All right. Hello, welcome. Today we're going to be going over some gua sha basics, technique, introduction to the Wildling Empress collection, and also for the next 24 hours only, we have a 15% discount for you on anything from the Empress collection with the code Empress15. That's all caps. I'll put it in the chat as well. Empress 15. Oh, that should be all caps, my bad. Alrighty. So my name is Britta Plug. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of Wildling, and I've been a holistic esthetician for almost 20 years. So my background is bringing in my knowledge of aesthetics, my knowledge of skincare. I also, let me just see, there we go, pin myself. So my background comes from working on thousands of faces in practice, hands-on with facial gua sha, and really getting intimate with the technique. So you'll see my face pop up a lot in our tutorials, in our feed, because I have so much experience working on faces. I love to show you how you can achieve some of those results at home as well with the techniques that I use in practice. So Wildling's been around since about 2018. It's myself and 2 other co-founders. Gianna De La Torre is a licensed acupuncturist, and Jill Munson is an herbalist and product formulator. So the 3 of us together bring our backgrounds of skincare, acupuncture, and traditional Chinese medicine knowledge and herbalism. And together, we create Wildling, and we really, our mission is, to help you have better, self-care rituals, to provide you with tools and tutorials so that you can, enjoy those benefits at home as well, not just when you go for a treatment once in a while. And connecting the stones, the stone medicine, the plant medicine, and the cosmos, and bringing those together into our offerings. So gua sha comes from traditional Chinese medicine and was used not only for healing, for example, for reducing fever, clearing the lungs, different types of healing, if you would see a practitioner, but also as home folk medicine. So something that people have used in the home for centuries, if not thousands of years. Facial gua sha is a little bit different than gua sha on the body, which is more vigorous and can bring up some marks that you'll see. If you see gua sha on the back, similar to cupping, facial gua sha is much more gentle. And we're going to go over together today the types of pressure that you want to be using for facial gua sha. And then when you're working on the neck, areas of, more strong muscle tension, tougher tissue that you can go a little bit deeper on. So why do we practice facial gua sha? Well, some of the benefits are, very sort of cosmetic, what we're looking for in terms of reduction of fine lines and wrinkles, sort of depuffing the face, encouraging that lymphatic drainage, getting a real glow to the skin, really skin longevity, right? And what's happening when we do that is, right, we're reducing fine lines and wrinkles because we're releasing muscular tension. So there's so many benefits to that. And that's where, people like to make the distinction between, gua sha on the body for healing, gua sha on the face for cosmetic use. And to me, I have a little bit of beef with the idea that work on the face is not healing, because it actually really, really is. We hold so much tension, so much emotional tension through the face, right? That tense jaw, bracing, locking down, the worry in the forehead, right? We have so much emotion that kind of gets stuck in these tissues, in these muscles, that we can help to release through facial gua sha. So that's a beautiful aspect. And then what happens? We have better flow of blood, lymph qi, nutrients to the skin, right? So that helps to give us a brighter complexion. When we start to move out the blockages in the musculature, in the fascia, we then have better flow of our own body's innate healing system, detoxification system. Everything's just operating better when there is flow, right? We don't want to just be hanging on to things. With the lymphatic drainage, right? That's going to help give you a clear complexion as well. If there's stagnant lymph hanging out in the tissues, which is our body's sort of waste disposal system, we want to help it move along its own pathways to then eventually exit the body. And that helps to detoxify the tissues, detoxify the skin, again, giving a brighter complexion. If anyone would ever come into my practice saying, you know, they felt like their skin looked really dull, that was always an indication that we needed to do some of that drainage, get everything moving so that vitality and vibrance, right, could return to the face. So many reasons to practice facial gua sha, right? It also helps to bring us back home to ourselves. It's a beautiful meditative moment that we can take, helps to relax the nervous system, get us back into rest and repair after we've maybe been on during the day. And again, it just, you know, really gives you that vibrant glow that is your own internal light, your own internal energy shining brighter when we're able to remove some of that stagnation and optimize flow. So gua sha is amazing for just about everyone. There are some contraindications and modifications that I'll go over. So if there is skin inflammation, such as sunburn, a lot of acne, recent injury, if there's inflammation, take a rest, right? We don't want to be doing facial gua sha over inflammation. Also, if there's acute infection, if you're really sick, we don't want to be doing lymph drainage. You want to just let the body chill. Conversely, if you've got like some sinus congestion, you know, kind of like that little bit of feeling of, you know, stuffiness, denseness in the face and head, it can be really nice to do some facial gua sha and help to clear that out. But if there's, again, something acute, anything, you know, an active infection, you're going to skip. And then if there's just like a couple of breakouts, you can just sort of skip over them. You can still do gua sha on the rest of the face. And then injections. So fresh injections, you always avoid. Filler, you always avoid because filler can migrate. So we don't want to help it to do that. Just work around it, no problem. And with Botox, if it's fresh, you definitely avoid it. And I tend to recommend avoiding it in general because you're doing the opposite action. Botox is putting everything to sleep, and gua sha is going to wake everything and rev everything back up. So for folks that do like their Botox, it might make it, probably will make it wear off faster if you're doing a lot of gua sha over that area. And always for the first few weeks, you want to just let that settle in because it is more prone to migrating during that time. All right, and just seeing that question about spider veins in the cheeks. So for spider veins and or rosacea, anything like that, you're gonna just go really, really either super lightly, and we're gonna go over the pressures, the different types of pressures that you'll use. So you're either gonna go super, super lightly or skip that area altogether. So you can just modify and work around. So you could work, you know, under the cheek area and then come up to the eye, which you'll see when we go through it, and just skip over this area, or again, go super, super light. And it can actually be helpful for those sort of inflammatory conditions to help release the excess heat by getting everything moving around. All right, so let's get into the goods. So in the Empress collection, we have a few different tools. We have the classic Empress stone, and this is designed primarily by my co-founder, Gianna, who's an acupuncturist, with some help from myself and Jill as well. And you know, we really wanted to make a tool that gave you the type of results that you get in treatment, but was suitable for home use. So when we first started to make this, there were kind of the generic tools available, you know, these sort of shapes that you see everywhere that really don't actually fit our facial anatomy at all. And, or there was like a very large professional tool with all these different edges and sides and was, you know, much bigger than this and kind of hard in the hand. So we wanted to make something that gave you all of those benefits, had the different edges, was comfortable in the hand, and actually fit your facial anatomy, unlike a lot of these generic tools on the market. So we set out to make this, and it took us 2 years. It's been knocked off hundreds, if not nearly 1,000 times by different companies, which it is patented, so they're not allowed to do that technically. So they have to stop. But I think it just goes to show that we made a really, really, really phenomenal shape because so many people want to copy it. It's just really fantastic. The U edge is what we use to contour bony structures of the face, as well as the spine and the throat. So you'll see it really fits perfectly along the jawbone, cheekbone, brow bone, and then up the spine and throat as well. The comb edge is fantastic if you want a feeling of just a little bit more stimulation when you're doing your gua sha. So that's going to give just like a little bit more. And then primarily we use the comb edge for cross friction. So this helps to work on fine lines and wrinkles. We want to do this very lightly and gently, and we'll go over that as well. But what you do is when you have a line that you want to work on, you hold the skin taut and very lightly go back and forth quickly with the comb edge. This helps to break up that fascia adhesion that started to, really act like scar tissue. It's sort of, when we make the same expressions over and over, then eventually those are kind of going to get etched in, and this helps to release that a little bit, soften those lines. We also have the Empress Platinum, which is newer. So if you tend to drop things, this is a really great one because it will not break. Any natural stone, any tool that's made of natural stone, and there are a lot out there, the less expensive ones that are, sometimes even dyed acrylic, like they're definitely not stone. But anyone that is stone will break if you drop it. Let's say if you're standing and you drop it on the bathroom floor, could definitely break. I tend to, knock on wood, be someone who doesn't break things super often, and I haven't yet broken an Empress stone. We'll see how that goes, and now that I've said that out loud. But the Empress Platinum, if you do tend to break things, live with pets that knock things over, kids that knock things over, this one's really great, or if you travel a lot. We also added this groove edge, which is really wonderful for gripping onto fascia. So it has slightly enhanced, even more sculpting benefits than the other stone because of the way that this edge really grabs the tissue. You can see how it really just grabs that. So that's going to work really nicely on the connective tissue for firming and sculpting. All right, and we have some products in the Empress collection as well. So when you get the collection, it looks like this. It's this really pretty little box that gives you a tonic, an oil, and the stone. Highly giftable, very, very cute. Yes, so the Empress Tonic is the first step. We always want to gua sha on clean skin. And then to clean your stone, I always forget to say this part, to clean your stone, soap and water, and be careful there too, because that is a time when dropping can happen, when it's slippery. So even putting a washcloth in the bottom of the sink can be a nice hack to make sure that it has a soft landing if that happens. And so onto clean skin, we apply the tonic, which is the mist, really, really hydrating. This is sweet fern and damask rose, and these are cold pressed ingredients. So just like you want to get a cold pressed juice for maximum nutritive benefit, these plant waters are cold pressed. So really, really nutrient dense. The sweet fern is amazing, great for starting to activate that lymphatic drainage. In the plant world, the sweet fern is great at cleaning up the environment. So the action that it does in nature is similar to, what it can help do for the skin. It's also very, very calming. Damask rose is very balancing, very hydrating, very soothing. So this is our hydration layer. And when you work with an oil versus a moisturizer, you always want to have that hydration first, because your moisturizer is oil and water combined. And then you get both of those when you put it on your skin. The thing is that often there's, many other ingredients in there as well that aren't so beneficial necessarily. And for gua sha, we really like having an oil, right? A moisturizer is going to absorb much more quickly, and then you no longer get that continuous slip and glide that we need for gua sha. So we work with these two things separately, the tonic, the water hydration aspect first, and then the oil, the moisturizing, nourishing, goes on second. So we're going to make sure that we cover face as well as the neck and décolleté. And this is a beautiful, beautiful oil. It has a slight sort of warming effect when we start to work with it on the skin. So we call it gua sha in a bottle because it starts to activate that microcirculation. That's really going to help bring those nutrients to the skin, help the skin, the tissue remove its waste when we start to get everything, all of that microcirculation moving. And that contains balm of Gilead, which is a fantastic ingredient that comes from the resinous buds of poplar trees and has been used on the skin since biblical times. I believe balm of Gilead is mentioned in the Bible. And we formulated this based off of some recipes from the 1700s that were said to preserve the bloom of youth. And balm of Gilead also has a lot of vitamin C in it. So really, really great for, just really supporting the skin, great antioxidant, great at supporting, all of the collagen production and skin healing benefits that vitamin C brings with it. We also have the nutrient resin complex in there, which is from a variety of resins, including frankincense and myrrh, that are fantastic for the skin's barrier and healing. So again, when we look to nature and what action something is doing in nature, it's similar often to how it's going to interact with us. So a resin is what comes out of a tree when the bark is injured, and that resin then comes out of the tree to repair it. And so on the skin, that whole resin is also very supportive of the skin's barrier. So we have a complex of these resins, and we use the whole resin as an infusion versus just the essential oil, because the essential oil isn't going to have all the constituents in their original relationship. So that's much nicer. It has way more benefits for the skin when it's that whole plant infusion versus, the extract of the essential oil. All of our products are essential oil free. The aromas in there are from whole plant infusions. So what do we have next? That's the tonic and the oil. And again, we want that little bit of slip. We don't want so much that it's like a slip and slide on the face. I usually end up using, I'll show you how much in the dropper. It's a little bit more when we're doing, the full neck and décolleté as well. Let's see. A little bit more. So this is about how much I'd use for my full face, décolleté, and neck. Now, if I was just using it as a daily moisturizer along with the tonic, which I often do, couple of drops on top of the tonic, depending on, if you live in a really dry environment, if it's winter and really dry where you are, which currently it's not, you would, need a little bit more than that, but just a couple of drops is often enough. And again, we want to have slip, but a little bit of grip as well. And as you get used to facial gua sha, you'll start to notice that nuance. When we're just slip and sliding, it's not going to actually be as effective. You want that little bit of grip. So you might need a little bit less than you thought. You can always start with less and add more. And before we go on to the face and neck, we're just going to do a few practice strokes on the forearm. So I'm going to put just a couple of drops of oil on the forearm. So there we can learn our pressures. So the way I like to hold the tool is just to have my thumb like that. And then we want a lot of the tool in contact with the skin. So a lot of folks will automatically just start doing facial gua sha or doing gua sha more like this. And on the body, that's the technique is, kind of perpendicular, vigorous. On the face, there's a bit more nuance. And we're doing a little bit of a different technique. So we want a lot of this surface area in contact with the skin. And you'll see that that feels quite different. So if we're just doing this and I allow the weight of the tool to simply be there. I'm not adding pressure. I'm also not holding the tool and removing pressure. I'm just gliding the tool along. So this is our very light pressure, right? Very, very gentle, very light. This is great around the eyes. If you're working over a sensitive area, the front sides of the neck, the front of the neck, very, very, very light in this area, yeah? And then if we want to be using more pressure, for example, the back of the neck and tops of the shoulders, for pregnancy, we do suggest very light pressure or avoiding the tops of the shoulders because of a pressure point right here that you don't want to go over, as well as a pressure point right here for pregnancy, just to avoid those. And so if we're otherwise using firm pressure, you would, just kind of get in there, add some pressure. If you've been carrying heavy luggage or heavy groceries and have some tension in the forearms, that can, you'll get a feel for what that's like. So that's what we can use on the back of the neck, tops of the shoulders to release some more of that tension. And something in between, closer to the light side, is what we're going to use for the rest of the face. So it should be somewhat like frosting a cake, with a little bit more pressure allowed in certain areas, again, like the top of the shoulders, back of the neck, and into the jaw area. We also have the Empress wand, which is in the Empress collection. And this is fantastic for releasing that jaw tension. So this is more of a pressure point style tool, more of a massage tool than gua sha, technically. And you can really get into some jaw tension, release TMJ, great for headaches. But for anyone who has jaw tension, who suffers from that discomfort, this tool is such a game changer. It might be my desert island tool. If I could only have one tool, this might be it. It's really fantastic. It's the Empress wand. Alrighty, so when we start our routine, we start with the neck. Why? Because all of the circulation to the face and everything draining from the face has to go through the neck. The neck is the fountain. It is everything. So if you want your work to be effective, start with the neck. So we start with the back of the neck, and the U edge fits perfectly up the spine. So we're about to go into our ritual, our facial gua sha. So just before we get into that, just take a moment and take a breath. Softening your belly, filling the belly with the breath. And letting it go. Exhaling through the mouth if you feel like you have anything to clear, anything to let go of. And just one more breath with a sigh on the exhale. And starting to engage that breathing, that nice belly breathing, also very helpful for lymphatic drainage, very helpful for vagus nerve stimulation. So what that means is it's going to help you depuff, and it's going to help your body relax so that it can integrate the work. So I'm going to spin around real quick and show you the back of the neck. We're going to be doing about 3 to 5 strokes per section. And the pressure on the back of the neck is, medium, firmer if that feels good to you. So I'm just going to spin around. Ooh. Okay, beautiful. So just coming up the spine, releasing. And then we're going to come right next to the spine. So you can use whatever edge feels comfortable here. I like the comb edge, or this long curved one can feel pretty nice. And we're going to come up right next to the spine. So you're not going over the spine anymore. You're coming up right next to it. And then when you get to the top, it can feel nice once you're at the base of the skull to do a little shimmy. And it's nice to try to hold the tool in a way that's comfortable, that's relaxed, so that we're not creating more tension as we're releasing it, right? We're going to do one full side before we move on to the second side. Okay, so I'm going to come over with the opposite hand now so that this shoulder can relax while it's being released. So I'm going to come across the top of shoulder again, either the long curved edge or the comb edge. Beautiful. Now we're going to come to the neck, and we're going to move from the sort of outer edge of the jaw, earlobe area down to the collarbone. This is a super highway for lymphatic drainage. So the pressure is now light, and we're getting into that flat angle. When we're on the back of the neck and top of the shoulder, it's sort of however we can get there. And here we're starting to become a little bit more refined. Beautiful. And already for myself, feel that starting to activate the lymphatic drainage. And then we'll actually, so that we're not so uneven for so long, we're going to do the second side of the neck before we come up to the face. When you're doing it on your own, you can do it whichever way feels good. But this way, at least the neck will start to be opened up as we work the first side. So we're not going to go over the spine again. We'll come straight into the work next to the spine, again, using the comb edge or the long edge. And the pressure here can be medium, firmer, if that's comfortable for you, especially if there's tension, headaches. Most of us have pretty poor posture. I'm talking about myself these days with our phones and computers. And then coming across top of the shoulder with the opposite hand, releasing. And continuing to breathe. And if you encounter an area of tension, it can be really nice to exhale through the mouth to let that go. And then coming to that front side of the neck with that light pressure. And then coming up the throat with the U edge. And this is feather light. This is almost an energetic stroke. Very, very light. Okay, now we're going to come onto the face with the U edge contouring the jawbone. So in order to keep a somewhat flatter angle, getting the elbow up here can be really helpful. And we're also going to come in with the support hand. So the opposite hand has a job now, and that's to prevent sort of overstretching, over tugging of the tissue. So this is also something where I'll see people kind of, with their hand over here while they're doing this. The hand here is not going to affect this tissue. So when you're working here, especially if the tissue has a bit of a loss of elasticity, you want to come in where you're going to actually be able to anchor that tissue. Very good. Now we're coming up to the lower cheek. So for this part, we're staying below the cheekbone. So you can feel where your cheekbone is, where you might put contour if you wear makeup, feeling that cheekbone. And we're going to stay below it so that we can get into that nice little meaty, cute cheek without pressing on the bone. So staying below that cheekbone. And again, using the opposite hand to anchor that tissue, and getting just that slight bit of tension on the tissue is very beneficial for the connective tissue, the fascia. And still more gentle than most people think. It looks like I'm really getting in there. And I am, creating a little bit of sensation and manipulating the tissue, but I'm not like getting in there, using a lot of tension. People, once they come in for a treatment, are often surprised that the pressure feels like much less than it looks like, yeah? And if you know yourself to be a little bit more of a type A, get in there type person, definitely always take a step back. Okay, next we're coming up to the cheekbone. So again, contouring with the U edge, and I like to start by getting that bottom tip of the U edge, that flat part here right next to the nostril. And if you're having any sinus issues, it can be really nice to do a few pressure point circles there to start to open things up. And then we're going to follow the cheekbone. So you have that bottom edge is following that bottom edge of the cheekbone, the bottom tip of the U edge lined up with your anatomy, so that you're really customizing this for your face. This is going to maximize your results. Having the tool fit the shape of your face is going to give you a better outcome. And here, for anyone that wanted to go very gently, right, over this cheek area, there could be a focus only on this bottom edge, lightly coming here while the top kind of moves away. All right, so there's different ways we can adapt for our own needs, customize it. Now we're coming to the under eye here, very light pressure again. And for any under eye puffiness, dark circles, whatever's happening there, this step here is going to do possibly more than working on the area directly. We need to open up the channels for drainage to happen before coming to this area. And we're going to go really light. And again, coming in now with a support finger, just to make sure that that very, very delicate tissue, to me, our eyelids are almost like butterfly wings around the eye, so that it doesn't get overstretched. And today we're doing between 3 and 5 repetitions. And at home, you can do up to 10 repetitions per area. And coming to the upper eye area now, I'm going to make sure I'm going to put a little bit more oil, just a drop, so that there's slip and glide there as well, because we don't want to over pull, again, anywhere around the eye. The tissue's so sweet and delicate. And here we're staying, when we're working on the eye, we're not going inwards of the orbital bone. So you can feel your orbital bone around the eye. So you don't want to go, into the eye socket, the eye ball. You want to stay around the orbital bone. So really light here as well. And then contouring that brow bone, and again, supporting with that finger coming in so that we don't overstretch. Sometimes we can do a nice little shimmy at the end of a stroke. Now here we have, some muscles, the temporalis muscle that also aids in jaw clenching that can be tight so it can feel really good. When we get to the end of the stroke over here in the lower face, we've got some lymph nodes right here in front of the ear, as well as a lot of stagnation that often occurs because of tension in the jaw. So it can just be a nice way to give an extra little shimmy activation to those areas at the edge of the face. There's often, again, either tension, lymph nodes, or stagnation that accumulate along this line. Now coming up to the forehead, we want to, we can either, there's two different ways we can do this. We can just straight lift the eyebrow, so not using any support, just lifting. Or we can come in with the support hand, and this is really nice if there's a lot of horizontal lines on the forehead, if there's a lot of eyebrow raising and those lines that come in from that, to help start to sort of iron those out. So you're helping to kind of stretch that tissue, release that tissue, or just lifting without the support hand. And again, you can use either the comb edge, or if it feels better without the comb, something like the short edge can fit the forehead quite nicely. And then between the brows, this is a beautiful relaxing point, that third eye yin tang point. Very, very soothing and relaxing, releasing those frown lines, releasing the tension that occurs from making that expression. This is a beautiful one to do on anyone, really, as long as there's no contraindications, but even, children and pets, everyone loves this. So nice, so relaxing. All right, so we've pretty much done one side here with the basic Empress routine. So this is our kind of scaffolding. This is our basic Empress routine that we can then layer different things in on. So a lot of our tutorials that you'll see on our various social media pages are things that you can layer into this baseline routine so that you're focusing more in on one area or another, one concern or another, whether that's, lip lines or crow's feet, or getting more into sinus release, or working around the eyes or jaw tension. This is sort of your, basic recipe that you can then add your own ingredients to. All right, so we'll do the second side together, going through a little bit more quickly now that we've got it. So jaw with the U edge. We'll shimmy at the end if that feels good, supporting with the opposite hand. And as you start to get skillful with your tool as well, you might not notice it so much today, but as you develop skills, or maybe you will, you'll notice that the side that we worked will feel different than the side you haven't worked yet. So that's a really fun sort of check-in point midway. And can also give you feedback on what's going on for you, right? Sort of if there's a lot of puffiness draining, like, oh, okay, there's been some lymphatic stagnation, just, information or tension release, right? It's all information that we can integrate. So coming up to that cheek now, staying below the cheekbone. And I'm going to switch it up and use this longer curved edge. Again, really the comb edge is wonderful here, or even the short edge can fit quite nicely. So we've got options for whatever fits best for your unique face shape and anatomy. Again, the best fit is always going to give the best results. And this short edge can also be nice. Again, the wand is sort of your BFF for jaw tension and TMJ, but we can start to, work on some jaw tension with the Empress stone as well, sort of getting right below the cheekbone and just moving downwards. You can support the opposite side of the jaw with the other hand. That can feel really nice. And then coming up to the cheekbone, again, lining up that bottom tip to do just some little pressure point circles there. Really helps to open the sinus, and then tracing along that bottom edge of the cheekbone all the way to the hairline. Keeping the elbow up can help keep this a little bit more ergonomic. It just feels so nice. And then coming to the under eye, lining up this short edge with the nose, and then coming in with those support fingers. Very, very light pressure here. And then coming up to the eyebrow. And then coming up to the forehead. Whichever way you did it on the first side, whether you were using that support hand or just allowing the brow to lift. And then because I love it so much, I'll just repeat this one as well. That might be my favorite. It's just so nice. I'm also very expressive, so there's like a lot that happens that I like to release on the forehead. All right, so that was our basic routine with the Empress. Actually, I believe we have one last thing we do as part of the basic, which is lifting. And I'm glad that I left this to the end because I like to drain as much as possible before going into lifting. That's also a common question we get on the neck is we'll see, some people say to go down, some people say to go up. Which is it? And it's down for drainage, depuffing. I love this to open. And then if you want to do some lifting, the end is a beautiful time to do your lifting work. Or you can go straight into lifting if you're not working on the drainage and that downward stroke. And we just simply reverse it. We just simply lift here. If we wanted to work on any lines on the neck, we could do a little friction, and I don't go over the throat, the thyroid, the esophagus with this move. This is really just next to the throat there. I can do some cross friction, those little necklines. And then again, there's the lifting. And we can actually lift all the way up. So that's a really nice stroke to come up the cheek. So we sort of scoop the lower cheek to the cheekbone and then glide up over the cheekbone to the temple, lifting that lower part of the face. So I'll just repeat that on the second side so I'm even. So nice to do a full gua sha routine. There we go. So again, for you getting into any detail work with the comb edge for cross friction, anywhere really that there are fine lines or wrinkles, like you saw me work on the necklines. If we wanted to work on nasolabial, again, hold the tissue taut, and then light, quick, light and quick, going over that line, right? And then you'd come out of it. And for so many different areas of concern or areas that you want to address, areas that you want to work more on, we've made tutorials for just about everything, from the décolleté, through the neck, anything jaw related, eyes, forehead, and then we also have our scalp comb, which is the last piece of the Empress collection that I forgot to show you. But the scalp comb is also within the Empress collection and amazing to release tension in the scalp, increase hair growth, has a nice stimulating effect, really waking you up, bringing in that vibrance. So, is there anything else I need to tell you? The back of the neck and shoulders again. Yeah, absolutely. So for the back of the neck, there's I'll turn around and show the U edge. And then I'll show next to the spine. And then it's sort of hard to show that like over the top of the shoulder. I don't feel like there's any like very clear angle, but I'll do my best here. Okay. Without flashing anyone with my little skirt here. Okay. So we've got back of the neck with the U edge. Yeah, just coming up the spine. And then next to the spine, and then across the top of the shoulder. Yeah? You get that? Is that a bit more visible? You can give me a thumbs up or pop it in the chat.
I was just wondering, what did you use right there? What edge of the Empress tool right here?
You can use either the comb edge or the long curved edge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm recording for my daughter. She's at the doctor right now, and she's the one that gave me this whole set. So she loves it, and I wanted to record for her. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, we have this recorded, so you are now part of the recording.
Something about the neck, there was something down here, right here, and you were doing something at the base right there.
Yeah, so we can do a little shimmy there as well. So the that lymph pathway that we're following ends here, right above the collarbone. This is a very important lymphatic point, terminus. So all of your lymphatic fluid re-enters the bloodstream here. So even though we're really just working, or maybe we're working from here to here, depending on where you're starting, about a third of the lymph nodes from the entire body are here, right? So we can actually do a lot of work on our lymphatic system, just working the face, the head, the neck, and terminus, very important point where everything drains to is right here, right above the collarbone. So we gently, gently stimulate that. And when we're doing that downward stroke and ending above the collarbone, doing that little shimmy is really nice to further activate there. Can you use the facial tool on your scalp and body too? You totally can. Again, fit is quite important. It's a little bit small, for the arms, it's, a better size. Once we get onto the legs, depending on the size, for me, that's like a lot of ground to cover. Once we get onto, the thighs and the buttocks, So we have the larger body tool. This is the Empress, or I mean the Wildling Aura stone. So this is part of our Aura body collection, and we have products just like we do for the Empress that enhance the ritual, that are made to increase the circulation and have a slimming, toning effect on the tissue as well. So this wavy edge is really nice for gripping onto that fascia. And moving through any fascial adhesions. So there's a beautiful tissue smoothing that happens. And then this is a nice little part to use, let's say, on the back of the arms, or smaller parts of the legs, the body. But this is our body tool. You can absolutely use this one as well. But you can see that it's just with this, long edge, the way that you hold it, a little bit more comfortable and specialized with that wavy edge. And for the scalp, I forgot to grab my comb to show you guys, but we have a beautiful scalp comb that's specifically made to go through the hair without snagging. Really, really beautiful as well. If you've just got the Empress stone, these 2 points are what you want to use instead of the comb, because you're not going to get much sensation. It's, depending on hair texture, can get caught more. With these 2 points, it's going to be really nice, or a little bit nicer to work in there. And that's sort of the sensation you get with the scalp comb, is basically having a bunch of these points in a row. So you really get that nice stimulating effect. All right. The 15% off is for the next 24 hours. So you want to get on that if you want to benefit from that. And that is for the anything under the Empress umbrella on our website. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to end the recording now.